Hey guys, First Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about Space Marine 2 and 10 more hidden mechanics that this game will not tell you, but really should since they have a serious impact on your gameplay. This game has been out for around 2 years at this point, and the base game tutorial is no longer sufficient at teaching you anything about the mechanics and interactions that have been added over the course of the game, so that whether you're a new or veteran player, by the end of this video, you will learn something new that can improve your odds on Operation Victory. Some of these are just simple tricks that can make certain mechanics feel less clunky, and others are dramatic enough they can shift your entire game plan. Now, the first hidden feature I want to talk about here is something every single player and class has interacted with in this game, even if they don't know it yet, and that is the parry debuff. When you perfect parry an enemy in Space Marine 2, you will apply a debuff to them for 2.2 seconds that will increase all damage they take from both you and your teammates by 50%. This is indicated by a yellow flash from the affected enemy, and this damage taken buff will even improve damage effects like burn and your gun strikes, and it will also affect every enemy in the game, including bosses. The parry debuff can also be applied on a perfect block as well, so regardless of the weapon defense type you're using, you can take full advantage of this damage increase. This is part of the reason why heroic weapons like the Salamander Power Sword are so strong, because you can stack its 300% bonus damage light attacks on top of this 50% damage taken debuff to get crazy numbers. So if your entire team is trying to bring down an enemy like a Carnifex boss and you're playing a melee class like Bulwark or Assault, sometimes entering melee range just to apply this nerf to the enemy is a great idea, and something you should definitely consider in every operation you play. The next hidden mechanic revolves around reloading your weapon, and there are a ton of perk effects in this game that buff up your reload speed, and in cases like the Tactical, you have perks like Emperor's Judgment to reload your guns immediately on execute, and you can even find things like this attached to weapon perk trees for gun strikes as well. But there is actually a way to dramatically increase your reload speed with zero perk investment that I don't see remotely enough players taking advantage of, because in Space Marine 2, when you reload your gun, you can actually finish the animation faster than the reload bar would make you think initially. And all you have to do to accomplish this is swap your gun when you see the ammunition counter at the bottom of your screen change to full. This will bypass the remaining reload animation and refill your weapon to full, which may not sound like much initially, but this is incredibly useful since contested health recovery for a lot of builds in this game, like the Bolt Carbine, is tied to your range damage output, and getting your ammo back even half a second faster can save your life. Now, you can't do this on classes like Assault or Bulwark since they only have a secondary, but it's still something I use every mission on the classes I can. Now, the next thing we'll be talking about here is in regards to defense types. A lot of players see balance in fencing weapons and think they have the exact same type of perfect parry. The parry window is just a bit different, but what if I told you there is actually more to their perfect parry differences than just a timing change? Because when you perfect parry an enemy with a fencing weapon, you will stagger every enemy around them in a 2-meter radius. However, if you are using a balanced weapon and you perfect parry an enemy, you will stagger enemies in a 4.5-meter radius instead, which can actually end up stopping certain attacks a fencing weapon simply would not. So the next time you're using one of these weapons, keep those differences in mind, since your decision making can change depending on how many enemies you actually staggered. Another feature I want to talk about is with the Bulwark class. As you all know, the Bulwark has a shield that can block incoming range damage for a 100% damage reduction, but something that some players are unaware of is that the Bulwark shield can actually block Venom Cannon sniper shots 360 degrees. So even when you are not looking at the enemy, just throw your shield up and you will stop an incoming sniper shot from these Tyranid warriors no matter what. Just keep in mind, this will not work for cultist snipers on Chaos, and other range attacks will still require you to face forward to block incoming damage. And speaking of class mechanics the game will not tell you, the next one is for the Assault class, and more importantly, his Ground Pound class ability. The Ground Pound is incredibly useful for horde clear since it allows you to mass AoE stagger and damage multiple enemies. But there is actually a cleaving potential value to your Ground Pound that is affected by your weapons. Now, if you don't know how cleaving potential actually works, I do have an entire guide on weapon defense types that will tell you everything you need to know about that, but the TLDR here is that cleaving potential affects the maximum number of enemies you can hit and still deal damage to. In the case of the Assault's Ground Pound, every weapon he has gives his Ground Pound a clean potential of 15, except for one, and that is the Thunder Hammer. The Thunder Hammer has a whopping 100 cleave on the Ground Pound. This means you can absolutely obliterate hordes of enemies with this weapon, and with perks like Zealous Blow, the amount of cooldown reduction you're getting can recharge 2 jump packs instantly plus extra. So if you're looking for a max damage Ground Pound option, the Thunder Hammer is just the way to go. The next thing I'll be talking about is one of the most important mechanics in the entire game, and that is in regards to your health. Space Marine 2 is a game built around living on the edge close to death, and there's actually a system in the game that tricks the player into thinking they are closer to dying than they actually are, and that is the fact that you get a ramping damage reduction when your health drops below 25%, and that gets progressively more intense the lower your HP drops, to the point that your final sliver of HP can have around an 80% damage reduction where you will pretty much die, but that's okay because before that you're an absolute tank. And this is why there are so many perk effects in the game that trigger at low HP, since being around the 20% health range is not as detrimental as it seems initially. And if you want a full guide on health and armor to explain this even further, I have that on this channel if you're interested as well. And on the note of health, well, there is another post-launch mechanic that Saber mentioned in a single patch note and then never talked about again, and that is regarding the stim contested health recovery. On the original launch of the game, stims would only give back 30% HP, but after launch, Saber made it so stims upon use will give you that 30% healing and also restore all of your contested health. So holding onto your stims can actually give you an even better emergency option than you might expect initially, since sometimes you'll be put into scenarios where getting back your contested health from enemies is pretty much impossible. And using your stim to get a heal on top of eliminating that CHP gives you incredible value on a single item use. Now, something I want to mention here, which is not necessarily a hidden mechanic, but something players ask an awful lot, is if the grenade launchers in the game count as equipment damage. There are a lot of effects like target lock or explosives adept that will improve your equipment damage in this game, but grenade launchers like the bolt rifle and the heroic heavy bolt rifle all count as range damage. The only thing in Space Marine 2 that counts towards equipment damage is your equipment, so pyro-blaster canisters, melt-a-bombs, and crack grenades fall under this category. If it's not in your equipment slot, it does not count towards any equipment buffs. Now, one of the most useful tips in the entire game is that you can actually set up Gunstrike executes on executable enemies manually, and to do this all you have to do is perform a single melee attack on an enemy that's currently in an executable state, and the game will give you an opportunity to Gunstrike them. You might be wondering how this is particularly useful. Well, the first reason is that this can save you time on execution since you won't get locked into lengthy animations, especially against things like bosses, but it can also save you cooldowns on your abilities like Radiating Impact, and this is one of Tactical's strongest perks in the entire game, and it has a fairly long 90-second cooldown, but gunstriking an enemy like this will let you save it for more pressing moments if you think a larger battle is on the horizon. The final tip I want to mention in this video is regarding the invulnerability mechanic. A lot of players think that perk effects such as Emboldened Stand or Emperor's Grace simply prevent the player from taking damage, but these perk effects are better than they sound initially, as they will also completely eliminate staggering hit reactions from the player. So even if you are 2 feet in front of a Carnifex while he is swiping, you will phase directly through their attack as if you don't even exist to the NPCs in-game. This is especially useful for weapon attacks like the Shadow Stab on the combat knife or the Thunderhammer's Aftershock, as you can use these perks to set up attacks that would otherwise get interrupted. But those are the 10 hidden mechanics I want to talk about in Space Marine 2, and hopefully this video taught you at least a few things you were previously unaware of. And if you want more guides on everything regarding Space Marine 2 from builds, classes, and weapons, you can find all of those on this channel as well. Space Marine 2 is also about to enter its year 3 plans, so we are getting a whole new year of content starting in September with patch 15, and by the time you're watching this, we might already be in year 3 or maybe even year 4. I have to say the future of this game is looking amazing, and Saber has a history of supporting their games for multiple years after release, and considering Space Marine 2 is their most successful game ever, I think we should expect content drops for this one all the way until Space Marine 3 comes out, and potentially even beyond. But if you want to catch me live asking questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on my Twitch with a link in the video description, also a link to my community Discord. I also want to say a special thank you to my channel members. Your support helps me make content and guides like this for nearly 2 years now, and as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.